Rains from above.
No one can hide from my sight.
友人の剣をくれ
Cheers, love! The cavalry's here!
And welcome everybody to ESHQ's GG Well Played. And you know what? We're going to be doing the show a little differently today because this has turned out to be a huge week as far as news goes in the Overwatch League. XQC of the Dallas Fuel is no longer part of the Dallas Fuel. And we are going to be jumping into that in our first segment here. So buckle up because it's a bumpy ride. So as you just saw on screen, the release of XQC is effective basically immediately. And I have to ask, as our fuel analyst, what are your feelings on this?
So there's multiple ways of thinking about this, right? The Dallas Fuel, they want to make money. You know, it's a company. They want to make sure that they make money off of these players. If they are not performing, if they are not playing, they're not making money, they're not winning games, matches, so on and so forth. Because XQC has been banned for an extended amount of time, fined, so on and so forth, he's not going to be making money for the Dallas Fuel. So, in regards to their choice of letting him go, it's already been, 2-3 months of this, and he's already been banned twice. They're looking towards the future. They're like, all right, we need to let him go because he's not making money. We need to free up our roster. He's creating maybe some bad, negative feelings, all that stuff. So, you know, from a money standpoint, it makes sense. But they are losing one of the best tanks in the league. That part is a negative for them. They're losing a huge Winston, a wonderful Reinhardt. I mean, it is...
And I'd argue, almost hands down the best Orisa in the league as well. So,
and he's creative with his plays. You know, he really thinks outside of the box. So they're losing a whole bunch of depth and flexibility in their roster and in their team. They don't have a replacement for that. They can bring Taimu over, and we've seen him play a little bit of tank role, but it's not up to the level as XQC. So, of course, the next stage, they're going to be looking for more tanks, more players to bring in. Hopefully not any more DPSs, but, you know, we'll see. But seriously, it's a huge hit no matter what to the Dallas Fuel. I mean, yes, they were losing the money, but they're also now losing his skill. So it's you got pros and cons of everything. And it's really how you look at it. If you want to look at it from the player side, you know, XQC was let go. He could go to another team if he doesn't get completely banned from out, which I don't think there's anything right now in the policies that say that can happen or whether or not they can. So he can go to another team. If he does, what will that team do in order to make sure that he doesn't, you know, have these policy issues, make sure that he doesn't get banned, because that's a huge thing. These teams want to make sure that they're utilizing his talents and utilizing his skills that he brings to the team.
And for me, one of the things that, and we'll touch on it a little more in a bit, but one of the things that does strike a foul chord with me as far as this whole XQC issue goes is I feel like some of the circumstances leading up to it were preventable. And I feel like there were, and not to take away from what he did, and I want to start off by saying that you own your actions. And I mean, whether or not there was circumstance or there was, you know, he say, she say, you own what you say. And I think Blizzard is in the right to take disciplinary action. I mean, the Overwatch League, of course. However, one of the things for me when it comes to some of the surrounding issue is, well, how much of how much of his behavior was because of a toxic atmosphere that is being created in the Overwatch League, and are we potentially going to see other players fall to this same trap, if you will?
I mean, what we've been seeing has been just reactions and everything happening. But what is really the source? We've seen players verbally attack each other. We've seen the OWL employees and casters attack certain players. I don't think XQC is the entire source of the issue. I mean, sure, there's personalities that get in the way and everything like that, and you might think about maybe some certain fan bases having an effect on the entire community, but I don't think that's the source.
I don't either. And one of the things I want to pop up on the screen here is, so this is a couple of fines, disciplinary actions that had come through recently. So Taimu of the Dallas Fuel was fined $1,000 for using anti-gay slurs on his personal stream. Tyrong of the Houston Outlaws, he is the coach, has received a formal warning for posting an offensive meme on social media. Ted Silkthread Wang of the Los Angeles Valiant is fined $1,000 for account sharing. And XQC, before obviously his split from the Dallas Fuel, was fined $4,000 and suspended for 4 matches for repeatedly using an emote in a racially disparaging manner on the league's stream and social media, disparaging language against the Overwatch League's casters and fellow players on social media and on his personal stream. And they go on to mention that he had previously been warned for fines of similar behavior. So one of the things that I do want to focus on with this language here, though, is one, right off the bat, I want to say I don't appreciate in anything, whether it's, I mean, the NFL, MLS, any sports league, and definitely not here in the Overwatch League either, is I don't appreciate vague punishments.
Of course.
I think it leads to the air of feeling like you target players. XQC, his first offense against Muma back in Stage 1 with anti-gay slurs. Well, not even anti-gay slurs, just gay slurs.
Sure.
Just gave him a 4-game suspension and a $2,000 fine.
Yes.
So Taimu does something similar. Now, and in my opinion, Taimu's language is worse, just not targeted at an Overwatch League player.
Right.
So now his fine is $1,000.
And doesn't get...
And no suspension.
Yeah.
So it's little things like this that, for me, like, you need to walk through your decisionary process. If you wanted to say that, XQC in not week 1 of the Overwatch League, but stage 1 of the Overwatch League, was receiving his ban because he was getting a $1,000 fine for slurs and a $1,000 fine for unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yep.
And then the two of those in conjuncture made Blizzard believe that it was appropriate to give him a 4-game suspension for his team to give him the appropriate amount of time for PR management. Okay, cool. You've explained your decision in a rational and well-thought form, and I can get behind that. But when all you say is, he did this, so he gets this, and then I read something that says, he did this, so he gets something different.
Right. Yep.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Sure.
Moving over to Tyrong, and I know this is one that we both kind of had the same feeling about here, is so he posted, and I'm not going to go too much into detail, but an insensitive meme towards the incidents of World War II in Hiroshima. And it's a terrible meme, and in fact, of all the things we've seen from players and coaches in the Overwatch League, I would debatably say it's one of the worst.
Sure, of course.
It's, disparaging a tragedy. And now he did publicly apologize before Blizzard prompted him to, and he made a $2,000 donation to the Hiroshima Peace Corps. But since when does saying you're sorry and donating erase what you actually did?
Right. I feel like you should automatically do that when you realize you've done something wrong. But you should still feel the repercussions from the OWL, just the league. You should still feel their punishment in order to make sure that they aren't playing favorites. that's basically saying, oh, I can do all these horrible things. I'm just going to be like, I'll just apologize right after.
Exactly.
And I'll get away with it. I don't agree with that at all.
I don't agree with that. And now, if they would have, and again, and this is why I think be less vague, be more upfront. If you wanted to say that, due to his posting, he was going to receive a $4,000 fine and a 4-game suspension. However, taking into consideration that the player apologized publicly without having to be prompted to and made a donation that was also non-prompted, we're going to knock down the game suspension to a 1-game suspension and the fine to a $1,000 fine. I would be okay with that because that just shows that you're being rational and you are now still punishing for the behavior, but also rewarding the responsibility and maturity to own your actions.
Of course.
So for me, I feel like there needs to be more of a backbone when it comes to these issues. And another one we'll go into here is Silk Threads, a $1,000 fine for account sharing.
We've seen that before.
We've seen that before.
Yep.
I believe the suspension was 30 game days. So 3 stages.
Yeah.
Now, it was for account boosting and not necessarily just account sharing. But what was Silk Thread doing?
What was his sharing? Why was it different? Why was it less impactful? I want to know those details. Is he just sharing it with his sister? Is he just sharing it with a friend? Oh, yeah, you go ahead and play my account, whatever. Or on my computer. I want to know so that other people don't make this same mistake,
Exactly. And for me, one of the other things that and I'm going to go back to here real quick is, so looking at the screen here, we're seeing 3 $1,000 fines. And do you see anything a little silly? Because I do. You're saying that account sharing, $1,000 fine, flipping off the Overwatch League's live broadcast and everyone in the arena, now on accident, but still doing it, $1,000 fine. And then anti-gay slurs used in anger on a stream, $1,000 fine. One of these things is not like the other. And I just feel like, again, it comes back to, I don't even know what these fines mean.
Right.
For me, I can't help but like, I feel like there should be a game suspension here, or there should be again, I just come back to, you have these 3 fines. They're all the same fine. None of them are the same severity.
Right.
And again, because it goes going back to Silk Thread, like you were just saying, what account sharing how? Account sharing why? So information is important, and for me right now, it really does feel like the Overwatch League is fining and taking disciplinary actions against players more based on political correctness than they are in actual code of conduct. And
I can see that, yeah.
And it's this kind of behavior for me that, like I said, I think could have potentially created. Now, like I said, I still do believe XQC owns his actions. However, but I do feel like it's this kind of atmosphere that can make a player feel targeted.
Yep.
Because, again, we go back to comparing Taimu to XQC. We did this earlier. Both said similar things. In fact, Taimu's language is worse, just not at an Overwatch League player. Half the fine, no suspension. We see coaches memeing out, horrible incidents in history, not even a punishment. And there are tons, tons actually. It really, if you go and look it up, one of my favorite Overwatch League players is Jake. And there are quite a few incidents that have happened recently on his stream and while he's guesting on other streams that I believe are finable offenses. In fact, going back to stage 1, I personally think that Muma's comments to XQC that started the whole debacle in general was a finable action. Basically, to catch you up in case you didn't see it, is at the end of the Outlaws versus Fuel game, Muma was the interviewed player. Muma then used XQC's slogan from his stream, rolled and smoked my doggies, which is kind of what he says when he really does well and his team wins by a large margin. And he says this, which is, in my opinion, directly calling out the streamer XQC.
Of course.
In a game where XQC didn't play. So to me, that's taunting. And now I don't think it's a $1,000 fine. I think it deserves a warning and a $500 fine. I mean, just like you see in almost any other sport, taunting a player directly almost always is a fine, a penalty in game, but some sort of repercussion comes from it, because that's one of the things that they don't want to advertise, is that kind of petty hostileness. Now, again, XQC's response to the matter is inappropriate and deserved the punishment, and I'm not saying otherwise, but you gotta start punishing based on a code of conduct and, I mean, sports integrity, and not just because, I mean, people got offended more because because again, you know what, you are going to hear more people get offended at XQC than Taimu. XQC gets a stream of 16,000 people. There are way more people to be offended by what he does because of the size of what he's doing. However, to me, when you're talking, again, this is the difference between the political correctness and then an actual code of conduct and integrity of the league, is it shouldn't matter how many people see what you do. If you do it, it should be the same consequence.
That's right. I completely agree. It needs to be fleshed out more. It needs to be stomped down the moment it happens. In order to prevent reactions like XQC, we need to find those sources and just figure out how we can stop them. Whether that hire some PR people to train these the trouble, the trouble sources, or something else. I don't know. But the sources need to stop. They need to be stamped down. And also, you cannot have other people, Blizzard or OWL employees, as well as other players, jab back and forth.
Yeah.
You can't have that negative communication out in the open. Even in private, I feel like it shouldn't happen at all. But both sides shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen, and we just need to find the sources and stop it.
Yeah, there's a difference between creating a narrative with a rivalry and some strong emotions as far as wanting to win that determine in fact, actually, in the Dallas Fuel game, Tvik and AKM have had history, and it's a heated history between the two of them, but it is maintained in a professional manner. Despite the two of them both having different fundamentals, different ideas in the game, and really attacking it quite differently, they can both still respect the other one. And that is one of the more important notions. The last thing we are going to touch on before we move on with our show is kind of what you were just hinting at a little bit, is when we talk about the OWL employees, the casters have a more important role than I don't even know if Overwatch League understands how important the caster role is. They are literally the voice of the league, because they are the voice we hear at every moment in the game. And so as we look into these clips real quick, I'll let you, enjoy it.
And someone else is trying to show me something. It says, it's a forum post. It says, XQC's ban is finally over, and they're really excited to see what he can do next stage. Okay. I guess it's about time.
You look at some of those records, they could easily climb up right back towards the top. So it was a bad stage one for the Fuel. It can get better, though, quick.
And speaking of the Dallas Fuel, this one right here is XQC, because it's a Throne streamer. And that's been a part of their problem, too, obviously, with their tagline not being there.
Yeah, honestly.
In a constant struggle to control his actions, Dallas Fuel player XQC invented a new and surprising way to feed this past week. After watching numerous nature documentaries, XQC drew inspiration from mother birds and vomited $2,000 directly into the mouth of the newly hatched Overwatch League. XQC remains unsure if the owl chick will need further sustenance and is considering providing further funds for its growth through his future on-stream behavior.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Dr.
Hello.
Doa.
Hi. Oh my gosh.
Crap.
What the?
Okay, sorry about that. This is what I came in here to talk to you
I
about.
can see that.
Normally it's just fine. It works really well, but sometimes this happens. I mean, you just saw it.
Oh, it's pretty serious. Why don't we have you step over to the X-ray
Okay.
and we'll take a look at what's going on here.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think
Step right back there.
I think I got it. I think I
Can
got
you
it.
handle
for
that?
now.
Okay, that's fine. We can have a nurse hold that down if you need.
No, it's okay. It's
Okay.
I
Well,
got it.
all right. I'm just going to activate the X-ray here. There we go. That always works. Oh my, wow. There is
What are you seeing?
a lot going in here. Well, I mean, the first thing we need to talk about with your hand, your left hand, you have something that we like to call extremely questionable conduct, or XQC for short.
Oh no.
It leads to a lot of issues. It can be chronic. In extreme cases, I've seen amputation. So we'll have to go back and circle back and talk about that one a little bit later. Let's move on, though.
And so for me, it's this kind of behavior that's it's inappropriate.
Of course. I mean, I feel like we should be holding them to a higher standard. We're looking at them constantly. We're hearing them constantly. They should be completely and utterly professional. Keep it about the game. Keep it about the teams, not attacking individuals.
Exactly, and because I get it, they're trying to create some fun and some levity in the environment. Create an air of a whimsical atmosphere, if you will. But there's a difference between doing that and then kind of memeing at players, and to me, that's what it comes across as when you're doing bits where they're going into, clearly cardboard boxes and they're just making wild speculation on time travel and then making jokes about how XQC is still banned.
Right.
Or throwing a surprise party where you're these kind of things for me when you're making these kind of comments, like, to me, I'm just saying, like, Again, it goes back to you're memeing. You're just making jokes. You're being overly silly, and
I mean, you can have some fun, but it's getting to the point, or it started at the point where it's just not. It doesn't make sense to me. It's to the point where I'm losing interest because I came to look at Overwatch. I want to know what the teams to look at, who you think is going to win. And then you're just doing all this crazy stuff. I mean, sure, you can have fun, you can do whatever. Keep it professional,
And I mean, as an example for me, when it comes to if you wanted to do some sillier bits and things like that, I mean, the joking bits would be like, at the time, New York Excelsior were still undefeated. You do it. You could easily make jokes about looking into the future. New York Excelsior is still undefeated.
Right.
Right. That's okay. Fair, fine.
Sure.
You can even make fun of it. Make fun of teams. Dallas is still struggling. They can't put it together because you're pointing at an entity.
Correct.
You're not singling out a player. Because for me, when I'm just saying, like, when you allow your casters to say that he is the problem, they are the problem, you're allowing the narrative to be created. You're giving the listener, the viewer, the ammo to go on to Twitter and go, yeah, you are the problem because they told me you were.
That's right. I mean, these players are under so much pressure. This is a huge professional level league for a completely new league. I mean, they are under so much pressure, and being attacked like that, what are you supposed to do? I mean, these are young men and women that are, I mean, they're still they're young adults, right? They're not at the point where I feel like they have completely matured and understand and know how to handle that. I feel like I wouldn't even know how to handle it. Most people wouldn't because of the pressure. So doing that to someone under that is you're going to get attacks back. You're going to get revenge. It's going to be interesting.
The other thing is when you give an official lane to one party to say what they feel and say how they think, and then punish. I mean, the players when they speak out or speak angrily in rebuttal because they don't have a lane to communicate. I mean, it's not like there's an interview, interviews that go, oh, and by the way, what do you think of the casting crew? And, give some sort of, chance for the players to even say anything back. So where do you think they're going to respond? It's going to be on Facebook. It's going to be on Twitter. It's going to be on their streams because this is the only avenue of communication that they have been given.
And the players or the fans want to know what they think.
Yes.
So they're going to be asking those questions in a unprofessional environment. What's going to happen?
Exactly. And on top of that, especially on stream, the biggest way you ask a question is you donate. So it's in fact, I saw it on XQC's stream after the Throne streamer joke. I mean, he was paid multiple times in his stream just so someone could have their question on air going, what did you think of when they said this about you? Multiple times, which means over a period of time, because of the things that the casters were allowed to say, over a period of time, whether it was genuine curiosity or intentional trolling, XQC was asked over and over and over and over and over and over and over again about what someone said officially about him.
When he got the fine, when he first got on that stream, within the first couple minutes, he made over $1,000 from donations. In the first couple minutes. That's how crazy that is. Like, I mean, you're creating revenue for awesome people and all that stuff, but still, it is, they're going to get their answers in an unprofessional environment.
Exactly. And so that is why I think the Overwatch League needs to be more careful about how they allow their casters and their pundits to create the narrative that everyone gets to see. So, but we've dabbled on this for a while. I think
so.
I think it's time we move on. Let's move on over to our E-Factor Tip of the Week.
Hey guys, welcome back. This week's E-Factor Tip of the Week is brought to us by Effect. That's right. There was a interview, kind of like an interview, but it was informal, asking him what he does to prepare for Overwatch when he plays. How does he get so good at those flick shots, at just being an all-around awesome DPS? And what he said is that he spends an hour and 30 minutes on 2 games that are not Overwatch. For the first 30 minutes, he plays Osu or Asu. It is a music, mouse-following rhythm game.
Okay.
And basically, circles appear in the rhythm. You have to click on them or click and drag in order for that tracking.
All right.
And also moving your mouse to those specific locations. He plays that for 30 minutes. And it's super fast. Look at go on YouTube, look up Osu or Asu, O-S-U, and really, it gets insane. How fast the clicking is, how precise you need to be. The tracking is just insane sometimes, and it is a very, very good way of improving your aim or mouse control. The next way he does it is called Aim Hero. Now you can find this on Steam for about $6, and he spends about an hour on this game. And all it is there's a panel in front of you, targets appear, different speeds based on your difficulty, and it is a precision click to shoot the targets, and it's basically just absolute mouse control, including speed and timing. It is, I went and started playing with these, and it is so difficult. At the higher levels, it is a mess. But you start to get in a rhythm. You start to understand what you're supposed to do. You get the fine-tuning down, and you really get into the zone and start really getting those picks down. Now, aim here, you can select CSGO, Overwatch, or any other FPS game around, basically, and those settings kind of transfer over to how it looks and feels, kind of. And then he goes ahead and plays Overwatch, get back into the groove of how Overwatch is, and just getting the mechanics back down. So an hour and 30 minutes plus some Overwatch gameplay is what he does every single day to improve his targeting and mouse skills. And I've done this for the past couple of days, and I've actually seen an improvement in my control. I mean, that sounds crazy, but I was playing a little bit of Overwatch, playing some PUBG afterwards. I was doing this, I was getting a lot of headshots. I mean, I felt like I had a lot more control. I set my DPI settings. I made sure everything was set, and I felt like I was tracking a little bit better. I feel like because I warmed up doing it, and just a lot more shots of mine were finding their targets.
That's really cool. And one of the things to take is obviously we don't all have time to do an hour and 30 minutes of warm up, but that is probably the best way to up your game if you are really serious about trying to get to that next level. But the warm up in general is important.
Yeah.
Making sure that you give yourself time to, whether it's hopping into a widow only headshot or putting yourself even into just a bot match where it's going to be 6 bots versus you and 2 bots, and just trying to overcome that that obstacle of the unfair team fight and things like that. It's little things like that just to warm yourself up about what characters you're feeling on with. Are you slacking here or there? It gives you that ability to give yourself time to adjust it to wherever you are in the current day, as obviously we're not all as consistent as the pros are.
That's right.
The other thing that it can help is help avoid that early tilt, because if you hop into a game, right off the bat and you're not feeling warmed up and someone else is, and they get the better of you, that can cause your night to take a spiral pretty quickly. So the warm-up not only gives you time to adjust to the game, lets you, warm up, and on top of that, by doing certain skill games like Asu or Osu and Aim Hero, you can really start to take your game to the next level. One of the other things I personally do in my warm-ups is I like to do a lot of shot calling. So even when I'm with the bots or in a quick play game and no one's in the voice comms, I do all of my shot calling regardless, because you turn that into the muscle memory the same way you turn flick shots into the muscle memory. You just need to keep doing it. Anyway, guys, that is our tip of the week, and it's time to give a little power rankings before we pop on out of here. And I remember when we were talking about this, we were pretty close. I think it was just a couple teams,
just a couple
switch.
Yeah, just I think at the top and bottom, 2 teams on both ends just switched.
So I'll go through mine first. I was taking the number 1 spot. I have the NYXL, followed by the Seoul Dynasty, then the Spitfire, the Los Angeles Valiant, and then the surprise guest into our power rankings is the Los Angeles Gladiators, taking up that 5th slot.
I have exactly the same teams, different order. First, we have Dynasty. Second, we have New York Excelsior. Third, but barely, we have Spitfire. And then coming up in 4th place, we got Gladiators. 5th, Valiant.
Okay, all right. And we'll save the Spitfire for a second. We'll talk about 1 and 2 first. Sure. I ultimately feel like, in fact, actually, I think about this for both sets actually that we're gonna do. When it comes to Seoul Dynasty and YXL, I feel like they're almost interchangeable.
Sure. Yes.
I mean, both teams have looked absolutely just top notch this stage with very few mistakes, very few weaknesses, and I feel like especially for now the Gladiators have looked a little worse at moments in the stage, but so have the Valiant. So it's kind of been
right.
Kind of a little topsy-turvy. Obviously, the Valiant did get the better of them in stage 1, but our power rankings don't look that far back. So I feel like either team can be take any of these slots.
Yeah,
really,
right now it's up in the air. I mean, I'm really excited for the end of this stage to see where they actually plant themselves. Because right now, anyone can be in the top 3 for the final stage. So I'm pretty excited about that.
When it comes to the Gladiators, what we've seen from them, the big thing I want to see from them actually is, so right now they're in the bracket of Boston Uprising and Philadelphia Fusion.
Yes.
The thing we see out of those 2 teams is inconsistency.
Yep.
They look absolutely fantastic one week, and then they look just a little lost the next week. So obviously we just saw the Gladiators go 7-1 on the maps versus the Los Angeles Valiant and the London Spitfire, which is obviously a huge week. However, just the week before, we did see them fall to a very struggling Dallas. So,
I mean, that's understandable. And partially, I chalk that up to them getting and making sure that they're in line and synced with Fisher. Yeah, Fisher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, just making sure that they kind of meld correctly. They're still building up steam, and this week is when they really fell into their own. They were looking great. They were looking fantastic. So I'm hoping that will continue for the rest of the stage.
And you know what? I ultimately do as well, because I do like seeing the top teams kind of have to start worrying a little bit more. And I think that's actually what did catch both the Valiant and the Spitfire off their game a little bit. Is you watch the footage of the Gladiators, even in stage 2, where they haven't looked before this week, obviously, where they looked okay.
Sure.
You know, they looked, I mean, nothing special. So I could totally see those two teams slipping up a little bit and not thinking they needed to, focus on winning against the team. And I think that's maybe why Dallas did beat them, is because Dallas went, no, we struggled against these guys. We beat them last time. Let's do it again.
Right.
So I think that is where it comes across for that. I think the biggest weakness for the Gladiators is if you can make Fissure a non-factor, then the Gladiators quickly crumble. And I think that is the reason that that Dallas ultimately won, is because XQC outplayed Fissure on every single character that they played.
Of course, yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that's what led Dallas to that victory. It's unfortunate to see what's the situation built up to as far as XQC goes, and seeing him out of the league, at least for now. But ultimately, we can only really look forward and hope that by our own commentary and the commentary of others who do similar shows, that we can help the Overwatch League shape itself into a more healthy and conducive environment towards positivity as far as esports.
That's right.
But as far as this episode goes, that is the GG, and keep it well played.
I like that. Yeah, it's good. It kind of like wraps up everything.
It wraps up everything, and one of the